We're looking for a road to nowhere, though ironically, this road has a name, or at least part of it does. It's called Downs Road. So we'll pull onto Downs Road right off of Route 69 here and head to the end.
This is a quiet, wooded street. I could see by our GPS that we're passing Lake Waterhouse on the right. It's not a very big lake. There's a few houses here and there, but it's definitely not a busy street.
No.
Oh, I love this. Check out the name of the hill coming up on the right.
Nice. It's called Mad Mare Ridge.
Ominous, don't you think?
Totally.
This road runs along the eastern edge of Bethany and the western edge of Hamden, Connecticut. It's named after Samuel Downs, who settled the area just south of Mad Mare's Hill in the year 1717. Oh, I can see up ahead that this is the end of the road.
Not quite the end. Check out over there.
Oh, yeah. There's a gate and 2 stop signs. It turns into a blocked-off dirt road. All right, looks like we're walking it from here.
This is the part of Downs Road that we're here to see, Ray. This is the section that's closed on both ends. A road to nowhere. And if we're to believe the stories, here there be ghosts and monsters.
All right, I'm ready. Now, do we know why it's haunted?
On my ghostvillage.com website, someone submitted an encounter about Downs Road way back in 2006, where the witness describes seeing the apparition of a small boy riding a bike.
Oh, that's creepy.
Well, the legend is that this boy was killed while riding along the road, and now he haunts it forever. The other story the witness mentioned was hearing about how a couple were out here parking, and they were killed by the Downs Road monster.
Oh, man. This sounds dangerous. To figure out how so many legends can haunt one road, let's head back to 1856.
It's New Year's Day of 1856, and there's something foul in the air around this region because there's a madman on the loose.
26-year-old Charles Sanford from nearby Hamden has been in and out of mental institutions, and he's prone to violence. Still, no one takes notice New Year's morning when he's seen sharpening an axe and whistling a happy tune. With his axe sharp, Sanford sets off. He's walking along near an area known as Sperry Falls at the eastern end of Downs Road. That's when 70-year-old local farmer Enoch Sperry approaches in his horse-drawn sleigh. Enoch slows down near Sanford, and then, for reasons we'll never know, Sanford leaps onto the sleigh and attacks the old man. Sanford drags Sperry from his sleigh after hitting him twice in the head with his axe. He then practically decapitates the old man before rolling his body into a ditch.
Still breathing heavy from the kill, Charles Sanford makes his way down the hill to the nearest house. It's the home of Ichabod Umberfield. Ichabod is also 70 years old. He's outside chopping wood and doesn't take notice of the deranged axe-wielding Sanford entering his home. Once inside the house, Sanford attacks a woman living there, who flees to a room with her young child and locks the door. She yells out for help from the window, and that sends Ichabod running inside. Once inside, Ichabod finds Sanford sitting in a chair by the fireplace. So Ichabod takes a seat at the chair across from him and calmly asks,
"What is the meaning of this visit?"
And that's when Sanford leaps from the chair and attacks Ichabod with an axe. And now, 2 men are dead.
Sanford flees the home, but is found later that day by locals who subdue and arrest him. Guilty of both murders, he's going to face the gallows. Still, people wonder what made him snap and kill 2 random men. As best folks can figure, the event that broke Sanford occurred a little over a week ago and involves a strange cult from New Haven.
Okay, this is where it gets weirder, Ray. According to the newspapers, Sanford's uncle, Justice Matthews, had been brutally murdered by order of a cult leader named Rhoda Wakeman and her group of Wakemanites.
69-year-old Rhoda Wakeman is a fascinating character. She claims 30 years ago that her husband beat her to death.
What?
Yeah, but 2 angels then touched her with bright swords, and she ascended to heaven, where she saw Jesus and all of the angels. After several hours, she came back to her body, rose from the dead, and was now tasked with preparing the world for the second coming.
Okay.
And now she claims to have powers to raise the dead.
Oh, good. So she's not only a prophet, but she has godlike powers.
There's only about a dozen Wakemanites in her cult, but they're a devoted group.
It's December of 1855 when Rhoda begins suffering from body pains all over. But no, she doesn't need a doctor to know what's wrong with her. She's sure the problem is a man named Justice Matthews. See, he used to be a devoted Wakemanite, but he recently stopped coming to the meetings. Rhoda is sure he's bewitching her.
The thing is, Justice Matthews is convinced he's bewitched by the Dark One, and his supernatural attacks on Wakeman are out of his control. So on December 23rd, at the urging of some of the other members, Matthews returns to a Wakemanite meeting to ask for help. Matthews is blindfolded, and his hands are tied behind his back. Two other members of the group beat him with a stick. They explain that it's better he should die than Mrs. Wakeman should suffer and possibly die herself, which would no doubt bring the end of the world.
Matthews doesn't come home again, and the two members of the group are eventually brought up on murder charges.
I mean, this is some dark stuff.
Yeah.
The kind of events that can stain a community forever.
Some claim Charles Sanford never recovered from not only the loss of his uncle, but the way he was killed. And that's what made him snap about a week later. Now from here, we're going to jump ahead a little over a century to the early 1970s. As we walk along Downs Road, you can see old foundations and cellar holes from houses now long gone. And this stretch of road isn't paved. It's just a long, wooded road with very few cars. It's remote. A good place not to be seen.
It's a good place for a good old high school beer bust.
Yeah, it is. This stretch of road has become a place for parking with your sweetie, for drinking beers out of the trunk of your car, and for sharing stories.
Now, the thing is, people do have some strange experiences in the woods around Downs Road. Some folks see glowing balls of light darting through the forest. Others see apparitions floating by and then vanishing.
But the strangest report of all is the monster. Some say it's a large beast, white as a sheet, and it sprints through the forest.
Skeptics are quick to point out that this is just an albino horse that got loose from a nearby farm.
But that doesn't convince everyone. Plus, there's that nearby hill called Mad Mare Ridge.
Ah, so this horse could be the mad or crazy mare.
And suddenly, all of these legends swirl together in an old dirt road. And that brings us back to today.
Back in 2011, this section of Downs Road was gated shut at this end and the northern end about a mile away in Hamden. Though it's closed to cars, the Quinnipiac Trail runs along the old road, so you're still allowed to walk it.
The double stop signs really add to the stories. I mean, imagine you've heard some of these tales. Then you see not one, but two stop signs and a gate. And suddenly, a spooky place becomes even more ominous.
Local news have done Halloween segments on this road, and that helps keep the legend alive.
And here's the New England Legends podcast, adding our 2 cents.
Right.
I can't help but think about these stories I heard back in 2006. The legend of the boy riding his bike because he was no doubt killed along this road.
Could you find a record of that?
I could not, but back in June of 1986, a driver was killed when his car ran off the road and into the lake we passed just a little while ago.
All right, so there was an accident, just not quite the one from the folklore.
That's true. Now, the other story the witness mentioned was hearing about how a couple were killed by the Downs Road monster because they were out here parking.
But two people were killed near here. They just weren't a couple.
There's always some truth in these legends, and if we trace them back far enough, we can learn quite a lot. Maybe the monster is some albino horse that reminds us of Mad Mare Ridge, or maybe the real Downs Road monster is axe murderer Charles Sanford.
All right, so whatever happened to him?
So Sanford was sentenced to hang for his double murder, but the gallows were cheated because he died from smallpox while in prison. So justice was never quite served. And maybe that's one small part of what still haunts Downs Road today.
It's funny how pieces of a story turn out to be, actually true.
It's why we still share these stories, right?
And we love it when you share our stories.
We do.
Please post your favorite episodes to your social media or just tell a friend or two about the podcast, because that's how our community grows.
It grows to the point where we were named number 2 in this month's Podcast Magazine Hot 50 podcast list.
Woohoo!
So thank you for that.
And thank you, legendary listeners, for all your support. And our theme music is by John Judd.
Hi, this is Kathleen from Pure, Michigan. Until next time, remember, the bazaar is closer than you think.